What's
All right,
going
we're
on,
on time.
people?
Yeah, we're live. We're on time. Episode 67.
Yep.
Man, you know, we're doing the goddamn thing. I mean, imagine when we get to episode 100, you know? That's going
I
to be
know,
cool.
man. It is gonna be cool, man. And excuse Evil's lack of energy and probably mine for a bit. We just both
Yeah.
woke up from a nap.
I didn't
Um,
take a nap.
you
I
didn't
was
take a
just like
nap?
I couldn't do it, man, cuz I probably would have woken up at like some ungodly time this afternoon, would have fucked the whole shit up.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, shit. We'll just make it kind of a shorter show today. But yeah, I was absolutely exhausted.
Now I've
As
got
you know,
pre-workout, man. I could probably go. Let's go.
I mean, I got as you know, with the hip surgery, like the pain's pretty much reduced, but
It's not gone.
it's not gone. So like it was a little bit different of a day yesterday. I think some of it is because the wounds from the incision are completely healing up,
Hmm.
and it's just a little bit more achy in my right side. And but yeah, I mean, it's been definitely kind of interesting to see, to be very clear. But I mean, let's we have we have a couple things we can talk about today, and yeah, let's
Yeah,
get into it.
yeah. So you were talking to me about this whole deal with what's going on
Silicon
with
Valley.
Silicon Valley Bank, and it's really crazy how time has this way of changing a lot of our viewpoints as
Mm,
far as like how we look at the world.
mm.
And like you've always said, I am a fiscal conservative, and you know
Correct.
me, I'm like, listen, it's definitely more complicated than simply, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer because the rich deserve it and the poor deserve to be poor. It's definitely more complicated than that, and we are seeing yet another example of our financial priorities, the financial priorities of our government is give a bunch of
Yep.
money to Ukraine, give a bunch of money to Israel, give a bunch of money to Zimbabwe, give a bunch of money to some rich people in our country. But when it comes to the people who keep the country going and the people that make modern living possible, not just in this country, dare I say, in many other developed and developing countries,
Yeah. Fuck you.
sink or
Essentially.
swim.
Yep. Essentially,
That's what
bro.
it
Like,
looks
yep.
like anyway.
Like, eat a dick. That's pretty much what it feels like from the U.S. government. I mean,
But then they tell you that's illegal. You can't get paid to do that. You have to do that for free.
I
Otherwise,
mean,
it's prostitution.
but I think I think when it kind of comes down to it is that this is why I'm for small government. I really don't like overarching government interference with all of our lives. But I mean, if we're just going to be paying out billions and billions of dollars to bail out billionaires again, it really does kind of become even harder to argue. Like, well, I mean, the whole student debt thing. I mean, maybe we should just kind of wave it all together. Hey, if we're giving everyone all these billion-dollar, million-dollar corporations bailouts, let's bail out the American taxpayer. Um,
Right.
I'm kind of at that level. But there was a video that I watched, CoffeeZilla.
Yeah, we're gonna
Um,
go over it today.
yeah, that I thought was really interesting, and I think we'd watch along with our viewers and kind of just digest what he's saying.
Yeah, we're gonna take a look at that, and we're gonna take a look at something that I don't think that a lot of people truly understand is happening in our country, and the implications of what that means for our country. As workers. We've got Mrs. Evil in the building. We've got my main man, Sonny. What's going on, Sonny? It is good to see you. It is good to see you. And all of the viewers that we have. But before we get into it, man, you know I think we were talking about it this morning when I was on my way either home, on my way to work this morning, or on my way home from work this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were talking about how it seems like we have the best of both worlds going on here at TSP, where I'm a little bit more um, experienced when it comes to live streaming, and so I do almost all the production of the show when we go
Right.
live. And I do the co-hosting, the production. I do I co-host the MMA, the Filthy Casual MMA watch party with Mrs. Evil,
Hmm.
and we are going to be covering UFC 286 on Saturday, starting at 1 p.m. with the early prelims. Be there,
Hmm.
be square. But you, man, you're a special human being. You uploaded a video in the middle of the night. I had already gone to bed, and I wake up, and that one video has more views than our entire channel has in the last 28 days. I mean, you are a wizard at
Mm.
finding out how to juke this algorithm. How did you do it? Teach
I
me
mean,
your ways.
I mean, when it comes down to it, as we both even talked before for years, I've known about SNEAKO very
10,000
early.
views in
Yeah.
10 hours.
I knew about him very early on. So like when I
Well, we all did.
saw but with Moist Critical release a video, and I was like, and I watched Moist Critical's video, or Charlie. I'll just call him Charlie because it's easier.
Okay.
And I'm a
What is
fan of his
people
content.
what problem what is it with people in the word moist that they hate so much?
I don't know. It's just very easy for me to call someone their actual government name instead of just a like a gamer tag type
No,
name.
I
But
hear people complaining about the word moist and how they hate it. Like I don't
I
understand
don't. Maybe
what's
it's
wrong with
just
the word.
the way it's pronounced or the enunciation of it. But I mean, I watched the Charlie video, and I was like, it's just sad. It's just really sad, and it just struck a chord with me when I'm watching this because SNEAKO is someone that, and I remember this very vividly. Me and Frito. I don't know if you remember Frito.
Yeah, like I said, yeah,
Yeah,
like we all
yeah.
came up, I sucked more than you guys did. You guys were more. I think didn't Frito have like a little bit of a problem where some people didn't like how he's treating his viewers or something like that?
Yeah, but and sometimes he would talk down to
Yeah,
people and stuff like that. But I mean,
yeah,
Frito was a pretty solid dude. I had some good conversations with the guy, but it was like SNEAKO was a big fan of the whole Papa Thunders thing, like the whole shtick, that character. He was a
right.
massive fan of it. He loved
But
it.
anybody who
Uh,
heard it really liked it, especially if you're a young man, in a gynocentric society where they're trying to get all the guys to love all of this soft emotional shit, and then here
mm,
comes Papa Thunder taking the piss.
yeah, taking the absolute piss out of people. But I
Yeah.
think it really kind of resonated with him. And I'd have to find it. I'd have to find the messages. It was probably via Skype, I believe, at the time. And we just had some back and forth. He asked for some advice,
Hmm.
and I just kind of gave it sparingly. I am in no means saying I helped create SNEAKO because that's not the
No,
thing
no,
I'm
no.
fucking saying at all.
But I
Some
think
people took
somebody in
that.
the comment section of your video was like, "Oh, he just asked you for advice. You wasn't his mentor. Like, do you know what mentors do?
I listen.
They,
I
they,
don't get caught into the weeds with some people because if they're a big fan of a content creator,
yeah, I know,
they
but
could
it's so
they.
dumb. Like, what do you think a mentor does?
I mean,
They
I
give
know it's.
advice when asked for it. That's
I
that's what that is.
I mean, and it's like the thing is, I'm not worried about it because I was there and I had direct communication when he was trying to get his way because he was struggling on YouTube, and the biggest problem that he had is that I even told I believe I told us at the time is that I feel like he was wasting himself with the whole COD commentary stuff because I think his talent goes for far longer, far
Who
past
who
that.
who in particular?
Sneeko, I thought
I
at
mean,
a
yeah,
very
I mean
young.
he did get
I
out
mean,
of he did get out of that.
No, he did it, but I told him at the time. I said, like, don't stick to Call of Duty commentary. Like, you do have an interesting personality, and you seem like a pretty well put together kid. Because at the time, he was very young and he was making very good content. And it was like, wow, this is pretty impressive. Because how it usually goes with younger content creators. They're just throwing shit at the wall, and you don't know how it looks. But he was pretty good at what he did. I wouldn't say I agreed with everything he said on that channel because it got a little weird at times. But I mean, I think he was a very creative young man, and that's why it's kind of hard for me to see because like some people like they'll look at SNEAKO now and it's an easy punching bag and all that shit. But like I remember this kid is like a young kid trying to figure it out on YouTube and just very earnest and very passionate about the craft. And to see him get completely like eviscerated on a public level, I mean, it's just tough. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's very tough because it's like I remember him as that wide-eyed, bushy-tailed kid that was just trying to figure it out,
he
and now
still
he's
is.
becoming
He still is.
he
He
still
still
is,
is that person.
and but now he's becoming like YouTube enemy number one. It's sad, really
I
sad.
just think that I just think that it's fashionable to shit on him. I'm gonna give him a merit and a demerit. The merit is that the dude, like you said, he worked hard. You don't get over 1 million subscribers like where he was without
No,
working hard. The dude was popular for a reason. Some of those reasons, I think are kind of dubious,
mm-hmm.
but it's not like he didn't work hard.
No,
The
no, he
merit
doesn't.
comes from the fact that the dude just doesn't have any semblance of self. We watched
Yeah,
as he
yeah.
sat there. I saw a clip from another Manosphere channel, and I saw a clip of him sitting there with that stupid hand image that the Tates use, and he's
Oh
sitting
yeah,
there trying to emulate them. And then as soon as they go to jail, he's watching his girl get smashed. Dude,
yeah, yeah.
please,
I know.
dude, you need to figure out who you are instead of trying to grasp at this external straw and that external life raft. No, dude, center yourself, focus on what is actually important, because the guy is always talking about, they're trying to pull the wolves over your eyes, and they're trying to do this, and they're trying to
The
lie to you
Matrix
and
and
all,
yeah,
and
yeah.
right. And it's like, dude, you're just swallowing different blue pills, because it's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
somebody else's narrative that you're following, and then you're like, well, there's Alex Jones, I'm gonna go follow that. Oh, there's Andrew Tate, I'm gonna go follow that. There's
Yeah.
this other guy who claims to be an alpha that also thinks that everybody should watch their woman get smashed in front of them. Let me go follow that. Let me go
I
follow
mean,
this person. Let me go
I
follow
mean,
that.
I think when it kind of comes down to it, and this is the biggest problem, right? We've had this discussion with certain people we've even had interactions with, like writing books about manhood when they've never even truly lived it.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure of the exact age of Sneeko, but he's a young man in his early 20s. And just because you are wildly successful on YouTube does not mean you're wildly successful in life. Doesn't mean you know how to navigate in life. And what I see him, he's in he's essentially doing what everyone else does and not putting his own spin on it, right? Like what Andrew Tate says, he'll say, and maybe even say a little bit more of the offensive stuff just to get a reaction out of you. Then when
Yeah.
Andrew Tate gets put into jail, and that's a whole different can of worms we could get into maybe, but now I'm going to try to take other people's talking points because he himself is not sure of who he is.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
let's just call it what it is. Sneeko is a chameleon. Because what does he do? The street
Hmm.
interviews. Who's done the street? Everyone's done those street interviews.
Not to
Everyone.
say that he shouldn't do street interviews.
No, no, no. But he hasn't done anything, in my personal opinion, that really kind of makes Sneeko. What he's now being unfortunately known for is kind of a unhinged copycat, because that's what it comes off to when I watch his content, and I mean, it's just very it's difficult because I think that shit's beneath him. I think he could truly find his own niche. What I think he truly needs to do is just get off the internet and find himself, and kind of go in that aspect. But I mean, just going on these unhinged rants, dancing with a gun on a live stream, using the incorrect
Oh, and now he's
terminology.
following John Morant.
Yeah. I
you know,
mean, well,
let
and that's the thing. The Joel Ja Morant syndrome is at it again.
I'll say that, because remember, you brought up somebody that is, I still count him as a friend of the channel, who wrote a book on masculinity at age 21. In a
Hmm.
lot of ways, Sneeko is very similar. He's just a lot less
Absolutely.
intelligent, in the sense that Sneeko wants to do socio-political commentary without any real life
Background in it.
experience.
Yeah.
He's got no life experience. He
Yeah.
doesn't have. years of really observing the world and analyzing the world. He
Yep.
knows how to parrot talking points. He
Right.
doesn't really understand what he is seeing when he looks at the world. He understands that there are a lot of messed up things in the world. He understands that there's a lot of unfairness in the world, but he doesn't really understand the analysis of it. So the only thing he can really do is just repeat what he heard somebody else say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, isn't that kind of like a microcosm of what the internet is today anyway? Just a bunch
I
of
mean,
people just
yeah,
repeating shit they heard somebody else say.
pretty much. That's the point in society that we have gotten, and that's why I think he's gotten such ravenous fanboys in some degree because
Right.
originality is very hard to come by,
Yeah.
and let's be very fair here. Not everything done on YouTube is original. They just people putting different spins on it, which
We're
makes it
not
their own.
original. Even
No,
we're
no,
not original.
no, we're not
What we're
original.
doing here on TSP, I
Everyone,
mean,
everyone's fucking done before, but
yeah, I mean, we
we
even
put our
talk.
own spin onto it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. I said, hey, I don't want to just cover the same shit everybody. I don't want to talk about the same people that everybody else is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been very pointed. And again, you're 1,000,000% correct because it shows in the goddamn numbers. People, say, oh, you should be original, but then what is the shit that people click on? And when you're talking about SNEAKO doesn't really have any marketable skills outside of running his mouth in front of a camera and then
Right,
uploading to YouTube.
right,
So the dude, I mean, people could say all day, well, SNEAKO just wants to grasp at relevancy. Well, that's how he pays his bills. I mean, and the
yeah,
thing is, he's probably overextended because he thought that YouTube money was going to be forever, and then he got wiped off of YouTube because a clip of his played during a Senate hearing. Once the government is onto the messaging that you're putting out there, whether your messaging is true or not, if they don't like it, they can cause a lot of problems for you. And then just like that, boom, right?
mm,
Like you can work on boats. Me,
yeah.
I can work in the gym, then I can make money that way. What can SNEAKO do if he has
I
uh
no internet.
no public presence?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he possibly could do. And I think though, I think having real jobs, right, does give you a grounded sense in reality. I think going through things in life gives you a very grounded sense of self. I mean, I've been through shit, you've been through shit, and quite frankly, SNEAKO is a kid that is kind of spoon fed, like a silver spoon in his mouth. He's
Didn't he
done
grow up with
trips
like a
to
single mom in a single mom household?
Uh, I'm trying to remember. I don't. Was he single mom? I'm not. I'm might be. I don't know. But like when
Because
it
the
kind,
way he acts, he doesn't act like he grew up with a father that was in his life. I'm just saying.
yeah. But I'd have to really kind of clarify that because I don't want to be putting that out there if that's not indeed true. But I
But
mean,
the thing is,
but when I
again,
look
his
at SNEAKO,
behavior, you analyze his behavior, he comes off as somebody raised by a single mother.
yeah.
That's how he comes off.
But when SNEAKO kind of had these trips to Italy or had these trips to foreign countries, had these very I would say kind of cringy monologues about life. I mean, it's each their own if they enjoy that type of content. But I just
Maybe it's relatable.
he
Maybe it's
hasn't
not
really
enjoyable, but it's relatable.
he hasn't been through enough, in my opinion, to really kind of find himself, and that's what I think he needs to do. Like maybe just pick up a job, figure things out, and become a little bit less unhinged. Because I think because he's stuck in this internet echo chamber, he does follow down these conspiracy wormholes. Like, and that's where I think people lose their sense of self and lose their sense of reality, because there is real life interaction, and your life is lived through a fucking website or a social media app. There's nothing tangible anymore. I think that's that. If you notice, a lot of people that fall into these conspiracy theories, I mean, do they have a massive social life? I mean, usually not often. Maybe there's a few that do,
Many
and I
of
think that's
them
why.
are adults that are employed, though. That's why I'm like, can we really say that that is a function of him having limited exposure to the world? No, plenty of people. Excuse me. Plenty of people have plenty of exposure to the world. You got somebody out there in bumfuck Oklahoma somewhere that believes that, they're funneling children underneath a pizza shop that has no basement.
Mm.
So, you've seen the QAnon stuff. You
Mm.
continue to see again stolen election.
Jargon.
Yeah, and it's proven false again with freedom of information requests granted shows you don't know what you're talking about. And these are like people who, drive the buses, they're judges, they're police officers. So I don't know if you can say that his lack of life experiences leaves him more susceptible to conspiracy theories. I just think that there are a lot of people out here in the world that just aren't very satisfied with where the world is, and they want to have some sort of explanation that explains the bullshit that's going on in the world.
Mm. I mean, it's just very interesting case study, and I'm, because I don't want to stick on this forever, and
Yeah,
but
because
I'll be,
I wanted to get into this after we talked about.
yeah, but
Let's
I mean, let's just, I'll just kind of close on this. Is like, I hope the kid figures out his life. I hope he gets things together. I do think he is talented. I just think he needs to put his energy in the right direction. But let's get into
Yeah,
this
I
goddamn
think he
bank.
needs a mentor. I mean, you know, maybe he should hit you up.
I
Maybe
mean,
he
listen,
should
I
come
don't
hang
make
out on
Andrew.
TSP and have more grounded conversations and
I
not
mean, I
like
don't
these
make.
wild, ridiculous claims
Mm,
that are made by the frauds in Florida, or the Tates over here,
yeah.
or the next guy that says come follow me, and he goes running after them. I mean, come
I
over here,
mean,
have some real conversations, some grounded conversations about real
I mean,
life.
and both of us are
And I'm from his
successful.
city. Me and
Yeah. I
SNEAKO
mean,
from the same city.
we're both successful in our own lives. Like, I work in the maritime industry. I make over six figures. You work as a trainer. You make six
Hmm.
figures. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like I could give the kid actual tangible advice, and like maybe he could just tell me to piss off because he's got millions of subscribers, and that's within his right to do so. But I mean, if you want actual real life advice on how to navigate in life, as someone that has been more of the controversial YouTuber before, as someone that has dealt with various different issues in life, whether that be through health or and all that brings together. I mean, I'd love to have an actual private conversation. Doesn't have to be a
Right.
spectacle online, and just
Nope.
be like, dude, like this is just not the way to go about this because I do think he could fix his reputation. That's just my personal opinion.
I mean, the weirdos that took the videos of the men in Japan that self terminated. They
Yeah.
reinvented themselves. They
Yeah.
became
Logan Paul.
athletes. Oh, the Pauls,
Yeah.
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 They reinvented themselves. One went to the WWE. One, seems to be a semi legit, bordering on legit boxer.
Hmm.
The wrestler likes to sell crypto scams. But no, now that we're talking about financial scammage, let's talk
Hmm.
about the American economy and how regular people like us view the economy. Now, obviously, this is not financial advice or anything like this, but we are two guys living in the world with life experience, and we see the world. We once saw the world a certain way, and our view of the world and in the country that we live in here in the good old U.S. of A. We have an evolving opinion and view on what's going on in the country, and from an
Mm.
economic standpoint, I think that in some ways, I think our guy here, Captain Paul's getting a little red pilled. Again, you're the one that's always say, "Hey, you're the fiscally responsible. You're the one that says, "Hey, I'm about that fiscal conservatism," and you're welcome to that. Like, I think that you have well-founded reasons for having that opinion, but at the same time, I come from, a different environment. And so I see it from the exact opposite direction, where
Mm.
I have more of a leftist view, because I understand that even though greed is a good thing, it can only be a good thing in moderation, right? You can't give
Yeah.
charity all the time, because too much of that is also bad, right? There needs to
Right.
be a good balance. So, me, as you know, I come from very, very meager beginnings, but I've grown to have the ego of somebody, that has expensive taste. I like nice things, right? So I understand both sides of it. I understand that in order to drive innovation and to drive inspiration, you got to have some level of greed, right? That's that ambition, right? And women
Absolutely.
work. Women are hypergamous, and what do most women? What is the word that they use to try to make themselves sound like less of gold digger and more of a motivator? They use
Jesus.
the word ambitious. I want a man who's ambitious. Okay, he doesn't make six figures right now, but I want him to try to go out and get it. So that is just something that as men, we want the attention and the adoration of women. We want to have the respect of our peers, other men.
Right.
And the way that we do that is we have to strive for more. And in doing so, I think that it's important to have a certain amount of greed. Now, on the flip side of that, if you have too much greed, you break the system. So you can't make it where all of the wealth flows upwards to where half of the American economy is being locked up between 25 ultra rich people, because then the people that create your wealth don't have the ability to continue on so that they can continue to create more for the country's GDP, right? So you can't break the system. You can't, and you're going to see parts of the system being broken because of outsized greed. But now you're going to see their so-called fixes. We're going to talk about that at the tail end of this. There's so-called fixes to the machine, the parts of the American economic machine that they broke. Zippy the Strange says things like this, Silicon Valley Bank, government should eminent domain the executives. Oh no, they should eminent domain SVB. The executives should get fired with no parachute pay. We need to talk about that. The depositors get their money, and whatever is left is sold off. Conspiracy theories are comfort food. It's like blaming the Jews for the world's ills. Agreed.
Yeah.
Same for the railroad. If corruption is found, the top 20% get their wealth taken. You leave corruption alone, it will devour you. Our economy is based on gambling, endless inflation value, and destroys wealth and value. And also another thing too is that a majority of the U.S. economy is built on debt. They need you to buy things that you haven't earned yet to keep the
Credit
profits flowing,
cards,
because they
loans.
don't intend to ever pay you, right? It's not like they're going to pay you a living wage and then you be able to buy things based upon, the money that you already have. No, get this credit card, take out this loan, buy now, pay later.
Right. Yeah. That's a important fact here. Do you have the
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up. As you guys know, I am the producer.
So I think when it kind of comes down to it, for me, with this whole issue, is that I'm just kind of enough is enough. Like another bank bailout. Like how many bank bailouts has this been in the last decade? Actually,
Can I ask you this question? Can I ask you this question, Cap? Because I think this is a fair question to ask. You've been through some really difficult times dealing with, let's just say, an employer. We're gonna call them the employer.
Yep.
Do you think that has any bearing on your souring on the American dream that was sold to you by your parents and your parents' parents and your parents' parents' parents? If you work really, really, really hard, you'll succeed.
And how's it going, Catherine? Appreciate you coming by. No, I wouldn't say that per se. Now, to me, I'm not like I do firmly believe in the dream, and like I spent money on my degree, licensing. Like I have all my licensing to me, and that cost me thousands of dollars, and I can go anywhere in the world. I legitimately mean anywhere in the world and make money. I'm not really worried about in that aspect. But it doesn't sour my outlook on the company, absolutely. But I wouldn't say it soured my optimistic aspect of like you can make it in America. as long as you kind of put the work in. But I would kind of add a caveat to that: do not stay in a place that treats you poorly. That like, and regardless of interactions that this companies may have had with people that you know, doesn't necessarily they will treat you the same way. So if they treat you with a certain energy, you learn, you move on, and look into other employers possibly. But it's just when it kind of comes down to it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I was not the biggest fan of how a lot of my shit was handled when I had to get hip surgery, and it took fucking. I got injured in July. I got the surgery 2 weeks ago. So I mean, do the fucking math there. I'm not necessarily very happy it took that fucking long to get the surgery I needed to get done. But that's a whole different can of worms I don't want to get into. But no, I still believe the American dream's like alive and well, but it's just you're gonna have to get after it if you want to achieve it. Um,
But
but
I think that, and especially as somebody who looks at and pays attention to and respects working class people in this country, there are a lot of people getting after it, and they're getting nothing. They're getting nothing in return for the effort that they put in. People put in lots and lots of efforts, grinding, running like into early graves, and the only thing they have to show for it is less than nothing. They paid a lot of taxes. They paid a lot of interest.
I
They
mean,
helped other people.
I don't necessarily disagree with where you're going with this line of thinking and rationality, but I will also say this is we're also in a time where a lot of people are just not working all together because of these circumstances. But to be fair, I've also noticed with certain companies that pay their employees well. I have a good buddy of mine that literally went from working at a pawn shop where he was supposed to be the manager and he kept getting looked over due to the color of his skin. And not for the reasons you'd expect. It was actually because he was white in a very minority-based community, so he wasn't really looked on favorably for it, and he was told that's the reason why he was getting it. He went to Walmart, and Walmart's got a ton of issues. I'm not co-signing Walmart here, but he goes there, and they essentially almost like over doubled his pay for when he's making the pawn shop, and he's happy. I mean, I think it just kind of comes to the circumstances and what you want to do, and I mean, how you want to look at success in life, but I mean, yeah, I still believe the dream is there. Is there's some hurdles now? Absolutely. But I do think not everybody, but some people like to use the excuse that the dream is dead, whereas in my honest opinion, some people can be just kind of lazy.
I don't think that. I think that the person that's kind of lazy is a very tiny outlier, but the vast majority of Americans work really, really hard. I mean,
yeah.
again, a lot of people don't know that 40% of our homeless people are employed. 40% of our homeless people. So the perception of the homeless person is the druggie that never did anything. There are people who, in fact, you know, with a lot of the housing problems in California, and then there's a northwestern state. Is it Idaho? Might not be Idaho. It's one of those states up there. They have a place where the housing is so expensive there that you have upper 5 and 6-figure employees that live in tents in the park because they can't get housing.
I mean, and if we want to get into the housing, we get into the problem that I believe a lot of the housing crisis has and why housing got so expensive is you have corporations buying up a lot of private homes.
Oh yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
And then upselling them. I mean, this isn't just
not even selling them. What they're doing is they're all holding them for ransom. You can rent this home. You can't own this home.
Right,
because
but
we see that this is a growth industry.
They're selling it at like 200% the price.
No, they're not. I mean, no, they're holding them in portfolios. They're not even selling the houses.
But there's also houses, I'm just saying from experience, Evil, that I know got sold 2 times, 3 times its actual worth that were owned by corporations. Or either they're retaining their assets, making it a rental property, or they're selling it 2 times, 3 times their investment. That's all I'm saying. And that's a big problem
or when they buy up the houses, it makes the value of all the other privately owned houses go up. And what ends up happening is now that the interest rates are through the roof, Now people have these high expectations of what they should be able to sell their houses for, but then nobody can afford the mortgages. So now you're stuck with an asset that you didn't really want. You only bought it to flip it, right? You're taking a fundamental human right to housing, and you've turned it into some sort of a gambling shell game. And we wonder why we're in this mess as a society. Now, you're the one that told me about this video. You sent me the link, and I did not use the link. I used YouTube's recommended because fuck your recommendations. Okay. All right. Let's get it. Let's get into what our guy CoffeeZilla has to say.
Two of the largest bank failures in history happened this week. But before we talk about why, I have a question. Why is Jim Cramer so good at being so bad at his job?
I love this
Just
segment.
months before they both collapsed, he said this.
These are never, ever talked about. Why? Because it's too boring? I like to make money. Boring is good. Watch out for Signature Bank. That's my fave. SVB Financial, don't you want? This company's a merchant bank with a deposit base that Wall Street has been mistakenly concerned about. This morning, we witnessed the second largest bank failure in American history, which naturally created a wave of fear as the day went on. Hence the Dow ultimately losing 345 points, S&P falling 1.45%, and the NASDAQ tumbling 1.76%.
Now, I have to admit, he has a way with sound effects.
Now, do you think Kramer had some money in one of these two banks? If you look at the look, he looked like he had just finished crying.
I mean, and it's hard, right? Because it's very easy to knock someone. To be fair, it's very easy to knock someone with 20/20 hindsight. And this is why, though, in my personal opinion, be very guarded with what you invest into. Make sure your assets have long-term security because, quite frankly, a lot of people are losing millions and millions of dollars due to overly investing into one certain type of portfolio.
Or they put all their money in one bank, and the FDIC only insures up to
like $250,000. Yep. Yeah. Like to me, and this is just me. I'm old school. That's why I never invest anything over like a certain percentage. Like if it's what it's insured to, I might go to 40 to 50% within that company or within that bank.
But we're not talking about we're not talking about investments. We're talking about people put their money in the bank, which is supposedly the safest place it could be. Don't put it underneath your mattress. Don't put it in crypto. Don't put it in the stock market. The safest place it could be is you gave them your money, and they hold your money until you need your money. So it's supposed like we were told as kids, get a savings account, get a bank account, do this as a safe route, right? Like this is so much more confidence shaking than simply FTX folding, right? We all knew that crypto was a murky thing that wasn't quite regulated, but we're talking about the big banks, right?
Yeah.
We were taught as a kid that that was pretty much all of our fiscal education. We were growing up as kids. Save your money, put it in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, but I also think some of that is misguided. I mean, if you want to be very honest, you're better off investing into your money in precious metals, and that's a whole different kind of conversation you want to have if you want to have it. But I think the whole giving it to the bank is wildly dumb because you also have to look into what's the insurance on that bank. Is 100,000, 250,000. Like there's certain credit unions, and I'm not going to go into my financial business, but like I spread my money out. So when I know if that folds, I'm insured and I get my fucking, whether it might take a little bit of a process, I'm getting my money back.
Right.
And I know that's kind of, people are like, well, these are billions of dollars. And I'm not going to even sit to claim to know what I'd want to do in that situation. But I think when it kind of comes down to it, you got to be very careful with what you invest your money, because the problem is you have people, right? Like we both make six figures. We have people around our bracket putting millions in some of these banks and stuff like that. And I just think that's wildly foolish. Or investing heavily into things that they probably shouldn't be. You got to be very safe with your money, because if it seems too good to be true, it usually is. And I'm not saying this is what happened with SVB. They didn't, and we'll talk about it. They didn't even
Yeah,
have any
yeah, I
CFO.
understand. I understand a little bit of what happened. Zippy says we need a clear separation from loans, investments, and banking proper. Unfortunately, that's just not how the system works. See,
Right.
when you give the bank your money, the bank offers you an incentive to give you to give them your money, and
Right.
what they do is they offer you interest. Now, how can they pay you interest if the money is just sitting there? Well, they take your money and they invest it in different places where they get interest from there.
True.
So you get like government bonds and futures and securities, all these things. The problem is that there's only but so many printed dollars that you're going to find at any particular bank. So what happens when things are really bad for a bunch of Americans all at one time, and then they all come for the limited physical funds that are there? So, obviously they want to make it where people don't use dollar bills anymore because you're a criminal if you use legal tender. You should, have everything go through the ones and the zeros, which is what I was trying to tell you about the whole crypto thing. Is one thing to say, oh, just don't fuck with crypto, but they're going to try to take everybody's basically your bank account is crypto. It's ones and zeros on a screen.
Yeah, it's to a degree, but not really. I get what you're saying, I think, but I would just disagree with that because crypto is far more volatile than anything when it comes to actual U.S. tender or any type of tender, like CAD.
Well, it's crypto that's just less volatile, but it's still volatile.
I mean, the situations like that prove that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the government wants to be able to create, a crypto base where everybody is kind of has like their own, they have their own ID, their own account that the government knows everything that's going in and out, and then you're supposed to pay for every single thing. So they know every dollar that's going into your account. They know every dollar that's going out of your account because the government has a tough time regulating the transactions that we do in cash.
Yep.
So, the thing is, we're already in that crypto space. It's just that you don't see it as crypto because you don't see it as the gambling part with NFTs and things of that nature. But right now, most of your finances is done digitally. Almost all of our finances are done digitally. There are a bunch of places now, like MLB ballparks and some other arenas that will not take cash.
Yeah, no, I've seen.
They'll blame it on the coronavirus, but in reality, they've always wanted to do this.
Hopefully, we can't get demonetized for you just even speaking about the pandemic we went through. So, I mean, I don't know what YouTube's updated policies with that are. We're back to cursing, but
we're 43 minutes in.
So,
if they're gonna comb through every word, give us the watch time and pay
absolutely,
us.
I respect it. Let's keep playing this.
Now I understand why they call it mad money. But there is one thing Jim Cramer isn't wrong about, which I know is shocking. Fear is in the air, and many are worrying, is my bank safe? So today I thought we'd break it all down, the recent collapses, why the government has announced a special bailout, why some people are happy with it and others are mad, and of course, what's next. Let's start with the facts. 3 major banks in the United States have failed in a short period of time: Silvergate, Signature Bank, and Silicon Valley Bank. Now, Silvergate was the smallest with about $11 billion in assets. Signature was like the mid-sized one, and Silicon Valley Bank was the largest. Now, Silvergate and Signature Bank were well known in the crypto space, while Silicon Valley Bank was massive in the tech startup world. However, despite their differences, these banks failed for similar reasons at a high level, which is this: they all experienced a run on the banks when too many people demand too much money too fast, and the banks don't have cash on hand. Now, I want to make something clear. It would be easy to draw the comparison to the crypto crash in 2022 when several...
But obviously the reason why this doesn't work the same way is because the crypto guys were actually taking people's money and giving it to other companies when they were never supposed to have access to that.
Yeah, with
The
the
banks
Alameda
were doing what
research,
they were
yeah.
supposed to do. Again, as it's not like SVB did a lot of bad things. From what I understand, I haven't seen any evidence of fraud to this point. But the thing is, they take your money and then immediately invest it. Now,
Well,
if they
but
have to cash out of that investment before it's time, they're going to have to sell it for less than they should be selling it for. And then the losses are incurred at that point.
I mean, but to be very clear here, though, and he'll expand upon it further in the video when it comes to the assets and liquidity. To be very blunt, they also operated without a CFO, I believe, for a good portion.
No, they operated without a chief risk officer, a CRO.
Oh, it's a CRO. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, like you reap what you sow in some regards if you're not carefully checking your investments. And just to kind of quickly talk about Zippy here, we're actually going to be kind of
get into that. Yeah, we're going to get into that, Zippy.
We'll be getting down to that. So,
so it's really interesting. You know that a lot of my friends are liberals. I run in liberal circles, or have run in liberal circles for a long time.
Right, you're a degenerate. I get it.
Yeah. And so one of the things that one of my friends, they scoffed at this notion. Oh yeah, did you hear they're trying to blame wokeness for how SVB went down? Well, it just so happens that SVB had a chief risk officer and then did not have one for almost a year because apparently they refused to hire anybody to that position that wasn't female. It took them almost a year to find a woman to fill that role because they just couldn't find any men. They refused to hire any men.
That's such a weird
they're all
take.
about that diversity.
But wouldn't you want to make fuck diversity to some degree, right? Like I think everyone should be able to get any job. There should be no qualifiers due to race, orientation, or sex, whatever. The best person should just get the job, in my opinion. But I mean, when it kind of comes down to it, to run a company that has billions and billions of dollars and not get the correct person because they're not a woman, that is a fucking hot take there. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy, but when you look at a lot of the initiatives in the company, they spent a lot of time and energy on wokeism, and they didn't spend the appropriate time on trying to advance the business. And it's all fun and games. You can talk all of this, because the banking industry is supposed to kind of run itself in a way, right? People make the deposits. You buy bonds and securities from the government. The government makes its payments on interest, and then you take the interest payments and you give the interest payments and have the money available for your customers. It's supposed to kind of, I mean, there's once you start a bank, I mean, how often do banks actually fail, right? We're going to get into that later. So, but to see that, it was just so much of this inclusivity stuff. They focus so much on non-banking stuff that when the bank, like, how could you not look at that as a factor when a bank fails at banking, and then you find out that a bunch of the initiatives of the company had nothing to do with banking?
That's, I mean, Silicon Valley speaks for itself in the name. Let's just be very clear with that. I mean, it's sad in a way, but
I mean, if it was silicone, you have a bunch of bankers with fake titties. That'd be something.
I mean, that would be God bless America. But let's.
God bless Captain Paul and his ridiculous hips.
Several crypto companies like FTX collapsed.
Wish silicone would
There's
fix
an
that.
important difference. Companies like FTX
fake titties
were
on your hips.
solvent. When there was a
Give me
run
more
on their
buffer back
banks,
there.
they had no money to give. Whereas the banks we're talking about were illiquid, meaning they had the money, but when they had the bank run, some of it was locked up in long-term assets like bonds. Now, to be clear, these are not the same things at all. But things can get a little fuzzy in the details. For example, when a bank run happens, what can start as a liquidity problem can become an insolvency problem if the bank has to sell what they have for cash. And let me explain. One of the safest investments is considered to be treasury bonds. Your grandparents probably invest in it. Banks invest in them, both for the same reason. They provide a stable rate of return. So say your Signature Bank, right? You've got billions of dollars in customer assets. Where do you put it? Well, into treasury bonds, which let's say earn you 1% a year. You keep some cash on hand for withdrawals, but you figure, look, if I need to sell these, I can sell my bonds, right? But what happens if interest rates rise really quickly? Well, suddenly you have this 5-year bond you bought a year ago, which gives you 1% a year. But now the government is selling the same 5-year bond and offering 5%. Because of that, now your bond's value on the open market drops. It's no longer even worth what you paid for it because it's giving less interest than other bonds. And so if you try to sell that, well, now you lose money. Now, to be clear, if you held the bond to maturity, well, you would still make that 1% and not lose anything. But when depositors are asking for cash, it's simply not an option to hold on. Now, I know that seems complicated, but the essence of it is this. Banks were forced to sell long-term assets that they didn't want to sell, like bonds, and they took losses because of these bank runs. Because of that, what started as a liquidity crisis became an insolvency crisis, and that's why they got shut down, because they weren't going to be able to service all those withdrawals. So now what, right? And
then the problem is if people see that the bank run is going to happen, it becomes like a snowball effect. Then it's like a stampede, right? You see that other people are running. You don't want to ask any questions. If they're all running west, you start running west. And then the more people running west, one person trips and falls, everybody trips and falls.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about CoffeeZilla and the way he makes his content is he makes it very digestible. Yeah. I mean, like if you had no financial literacy, that would make sense to me. At least in my opinion. Maybe I don't want to overspeak, but
I mean, you're pretty illiterate, so I trust you.
I mean, listen, that's kind of bigoted because of my redheaded background. But anyways, I'm going to ignore your bigotry. I mean, when it kind of comes down to it, he just paints the perfect picture, makes it very simple so people will understand what's going on here. And it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the long run. Like you said, when more reports come out, if there's going to be anyone held responsible for, some of the poor financial decisions that were made. It's, I don't know, man. Like with billions of dollars at the line, I feel like someone's head's going to be on the chopping block. I
mean, there's no choice. I mean, when there's a massive failure like that, you don't really have a point. You don't have an alternative at that point. But then again, one of the things that I heard about what happened here at SVB, which is standard operating procedure for these situations, is that when the bank went down, the first thing the government did before announcing that the bank went down was pay like these massive severance packages and pay them their bonus for the year. And it was February when they did this. It was like, when they started this process, it was like the end of February. Right. So, like, I don't understand how that's possible.
I mean, it's just a lot of this is just incompetence on a major scale, because the problem is that they clearly neglected an important role within their company. And how do I get this? I feel like even though there's been massive bailouts over the years and banks get bailed out, they still feel they probably kind of go along with the pretense that they're untouchable, because the government, if they do go south, the government's just going to come in and save them.
So you can make even more risky bets.
Investments, because you have a piggy bank that will never go away, and that's why a lot of people have a problem with these bailouts. I mean, and I know a lot of it's like, well, it's just going to be going to the members and not to the executives and yada. Still, I mean, what's the real long-term repercussions for that bank? Like, are the executives still going to be there? Are they going to still be making money for that company? I don't know, man. It's just, I'm at the point with this bank bailout shit, whether it be a Democrat or a Republican in office. It's like, let these people sink or swim at some points.
Right.
You know,
Because
like,
the thing is, like,
it just gets
that's how they
tiring.
treat us.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where it kind of goes with me with the whole student loan. And you know my particular economic leanings. I think we need a far smaller government, and I think less taxes would be perfect. No tax would be perfect, but I understand you need them in some degree to pay for roads and infrastructure, yada, yada, yada.
I just think they do too much quadruple dipping. Like, they take money when you earn it. They take money when you buy stuff. They take money when you repair stuff. You know, they take money when you hold stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like, you buy a house. It's like, okay, I paid the taxes on the house. I bought the house. Boom. No, you have to continue to keep paying taxes on that house because you have it.
Yeah, I would just at this point, if we're gonna bail out all these banks every fucking few years, I mean, and I hate saying this, but just fuck it, wipe the goddamn student debt, call it a day. I mean, if we can bail out these billionaires, you can bail out a thousandaire. I mean, how many billions and billions and billions of dollars?
You know what that does too? When you take economic burdens off of the populace, it stimulates the economy. And when the economy is stimulated,
to a degree, yeah.
The government releases the numbers on the stimulated economy, then you get people with a little bit more confidence. You get less crimes of despair. The crime rate goes down.
Right.
And so before, when you have people feeling worse about the economy, and then you get less economic activity because people are afraid to go out and shop or go out and even work, because, you know, people are robbing the stores and stealing from the stores and robbing people's houses. Well, and then that just kind of compounds itself. It compounds itself in the opposite direction too. Less crime, more confidence, more economic activity. The numbers get better.
Zippy has a good point here. Did the stimulus help with crime?
Yeah, the stimulus did help with crime for a while, but the crime ended up going up when the stimulus was gone, because remember, they only gave a pittance. I know that you got some billionaires talking about, well, you know, they got people just getting free money from the government, $1,400 one time and $600 another time. What, you think people are living high off the hog on $2,000? Fuck out of here. That's less than 1 month of my rent. What are you talking about?
And Wayne says it's going to lead to inflation, really.
Well, here's the funny thing about the whole inflation thing, and it really irritates the shit out of me. When the whole thing happened, when we got the stimulus payments, right? Economists who, you know, their job is to predict doomsday. That's their job, because if they're wrong, then everybody's happy. If they're right, well, then they're right, but everybody's miserable, right? So the economists started to kind of foretell, hey, if you print too much money, we could end up in an inflationary environment. And then you had another economist echo the same sentiments. And then the companies say, well, the economists are talking about possible inflation. So since the inflation is expected, and you're saying, wow, we can get inflation rates of 10, 15%. Hey, maybe I can go and raise my prices 10 or 15%, and it'll be in line with that inflation. And then I can make a huge fucking fat ass profit. Even though my cost didn't go up that much, if at all, I have the opportunity to profiteer right now. So I'm going to take it. So this company says, oh, I have a way that I can get my company stock price to hit the all-time high so that I can get a fat ass bonus for it. And then the other corporation does it. And then another corporation does it. And then another corporation does it. And now you've caused the inflationary environment that we were supposed to be fearing. Hey, you know, don't do too much of this or don't do too much of that. And then they're like, oh, hey, everybody, Do you hear that? Inflation is coming, okay? So look, I'm going to raise my price, everybody. Remember, inflation, remember? But then you see these companies, because when you talk about real inflation, you'll see companies struggling to basically stay like kind of like in the black, not or barely turning a profit in high inflationary, where they're forced to raise their prices. These companies were jacking up their prices from 5 to 25%, even more than that, while they were already enjoying record profits.
Right.
It's a fucking scam.
Yeah. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I think when it kind of comes down to it, though, is
Then they want to fucking lay off all the employees so that their stock price can go even higher.
Yeah. I mean, there is one interesting thing that Zippy also had to say here. I would say no focus or initiative to get people back to work. It's just free money with no other line of thought. I think he's
but that's not enough money to keep people from going back to work. People stopped going to work. It had nothing to do with the money.
We're also it wasn't just the stimulus though. That's the one thing you are forgetting. When people were unemployed for a few months, they were getting an additional like $600 or something. Like I know this
$600 a month.
No. I think it was actually more than that because my girl, right? She got laid off at her job, right, as a teacher. She was making way more money when she was laid off during the pandemic than she was while she was working.
I think that was the minority of people. I did hear that some people made more than 100% because of the economic, the paycheck protection, the little bonus that they put.
Yeah, no,
on top of it.
I do not recall the exact number off the top of my head, so I apologize for misspeaking. I'd have to. I could ask her. But
I think programs, the Los Angeles Lakers took money from that program.
I'm not worried about dude. The company I work for took million.
Yeah, but we're talking about companies that didn't need to take the money. Fucking Shake Shack took millions of dollars. Joel Osteen, whatever his name is.
Listen, do not bring God into this. Do not bring God into.
And then you got the people that created fake ass companies, and now they driving around in Lamborghinis. All the motherfuckers went to prison.
But
the money is gone though. The money is just gone.
Listen, and this is me coming off as sanctimonious. I fucking hate Joel Olsen. Oh God, I hate him.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. And remember, they had that hurricane that came by, and he locked the doors.
Fuck y'all, kids. Fuck y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Such a fake Christian. Such a fake just using.
But I think he's a prosperity preacher. I think he's a prosperity preacher.
It disgusts me. It goes against everything in the fucking Bible. And like I'm not a Bible thumper, but it's just everything he's trying to preach. I just laugh at with my super church.
Yeah, because he doesn't live by those words.
Jesus was decked out in some fucking millions of dollars. Like, calm the fuck down with that shit.
Hey, take this for a soundbite. Joel Osteen doesn't live by the word. He profits from the word.
Fucking facts. That is the truth. But getting back into the subject at hand. I don't know. Let's wrap up this video. And we'll
get into it.
The government guarantee bank deposits. Why are we even talking about this? Well,
it guarantees up to $250,000. So if you have $1 million, you could lose $750,000 if the bank goes down.
They kind of do. The FDIC insures up to $250,000 per account. However, at places like Silicon Valley Bank, they had a lot of accounts with a lot more than that. Because as we spoke of, they hosted a lot of venture capital startups that might have had anywhere from...
Yeah, let's check out this list. Circle had 3.3 in there. Roku had $487 million in there. Oof. BlockFi, crypto, $227 million. Roblox.
That's a weird one to me, but continue.
$150 million. Ginkgo Bio, $74 million. iRhythm, $55 million. Rocket Lab, $38 million. Sangamo Therapeutics, $34 million. Lending Club lent them $21 million. Payoneer, $20 million. These companies Circle stands to get of their, possibly, not saying that this is going to happen because obviously they're rich, so they're going to actually get bailed out. But Circle, by the rules of the FDIC, would get back $250,000 out of their $3.3 billion.
That's a pretty bad return on investment, right?
Yeah, that's
oh,
yeah. I think they would have done better in Vegas.
Oh,
10 to $50 million in there. And suddenly that company, which was healthy yesterday, now can't get access to that money and can't meet payroll because their bank had failed. And this triggered a huge response from many in Silicon Valley to call for depositors to have their money.
Yeah, Mark Cuban had a lot of money in SVB.
I think...
And of course, he wasn't talking about the insurance being too low before the bank where his money was in it went down. I think somebody was saying, hey, you should have, you should raise it to 10 million. Why? Because that would protect Captain Paul? Because that would protect Mrs. and Dr. Evil Genius? Joe Schmo? No. Because if you're one of these people that have $10 million in a bank account, oh, you're the people that actually matter, right?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Money guaranteed, with people like Jason Calacanis saying, you should be absolutely terrified right now. That is the proper reaction to a bank run and contagion. Guarantee all deposits up to $10 million or this will spiral into chaos. And comments like this sparked a huge debate on whether the government should or would get involved. Ultimately, with the answer coming on Sunday when the U.S. Treasury said this, quote, depositors will have access to all of their money. And there you have it. The U.S. government of their money.
Son. Nah, man. Again, rules for me, not for thee.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it kind of comes down to it, it's I get why they're doing it. I do understand the reasoning, but it just gets very tiresome continually buying out these risky banks.
Rich
man.
people.
It's so. It
How many of
quick.
these ultra rich people are going to lose assets? How many of them are going to have to sell their homes? How many of these guys are going to go into foreclosure? How many of these guys?
Not many.
Probably none.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, the interest rates really created the economic environment because they've been jacking them up. Has really created this economic environment, not just in housing and employment, but even in crypto and in the banking sphere, right? So now they're saying, well, for this bank that's hurting, we're going to lower the interest rates for you guys. So you could basically just raise and lower it for whoever you want. The high interest rate is for the regular person that the economy is built on the backs of.
Yeah.
For the person for the class of people who have been profiting off of the labor of other people. You know what? You're struggling a little bit. We're going to give you low loan terms. Everybody else gets the high ones because we value you more than them.
And there you have it. The U.S. government is stepping in to save not only Silicon Valley Bank, but also Signature Bank as well. They did this citing a systemic risk exception, which really boils down to a single idea. Please don't panic, guys. Please don't take out your money. Ultimately, the U.S. government doesn't want you worried about your bank deposits. However, not everyone saw this as a win. Many were quick to point out that, once again, the government only seems to step in to help a certain type of person.
Hey! And we get to Zippy's comment. Socialism centralizes things to a point. It makes hyper-authoritarianism easy. And most classical fascist communists were socialists before they got power. Do not trust humans with heavy centralization. But here it is, Zippy. We've got socialism for who? For the wealthy.
Yeah. I mean, but it brings up a good point, though. Everyone, the communists and those people that got really crazy with power, so they just power. Like, I'm sorry, money and power corrupts everybody usually. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I definitely would have to say that kind of. It's just very interesting how we're able to bail these fucking people out, but we can't bail out our own citizens. That's pretty fucking sad.
Quote, Mark Cuban, bail out Silicon Valley Bank tonight. Feds, approved. Goldman Sachs needs $824 billion. Approved.
Okay. Wait, before we even get to JP Morgan, look at the number. Goldman Sachs needs $824 billion. Hey, Cap, what was that number for 10 or 20,000, depending on how much you owe and where you got your loan from, per college graduate or applicant or whatever? Well, did that come anywhere near $824 billion?
No, it did not.
Hmm.
But we're bailing them
Was
out.
it less than the United States poured into Ukraine since the beginning of the invasion?
Yep.
Yeah.
Israel. Yep.
But we're broke. We don't have any money for any of those things. But we have a special fund for Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Who's been rubbing their sacks on the collective foreheads of Americans for generations.
Yep.
JP Morgan Chase needs $416 billion.
Oh, do you remember who JP Morgan was?
Yeah.
The richest man in the world 130 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I think
he was US banking.
So this is the problem. Zippy, I'm gonna bring this up too, because this is another problem too. The monopoly enforcement laws are no longer enforced at all. And that is a concerning issue, where we do not break up these monopolies, where you have sole entities have they hold the market by themselves, right? Or they have a majority hold. That is a problem. I get to your aspect. We need to do it in a balanced manner, but at the same time,
this don't look balanced.
We haven't even been fucking looking out and following our own goddamn laws when it comes to monopoly and all that stuff. I mean, look how much money we're giving to these banks that, quite frankly, should not be getting bailed out this much. I just don't believe in it. Like, it's ridiculous. 824 million, 416 million.
No.
Playing
824 billion. You are off by a factor of 1,000 times 10,000. Like,
you know what I meant to say, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, these numbers are unfathomable. It just goes to that point. These numbers, people don't really know what $824 billion actually is. They can see that there are numbers on a screen. But do you remember that scene in Breaking Bad when the obese black guy lays on that fucking pallet of money?
Yes.
Do you remember how much money that was?
No.
$3 million.
That's crazy.
You see that massive pallet of money was just $3 million. Imagine how many pallets you need for the physical representation of $824 billion.
I want that Scrooge McDuck money, boy. I want to swim in them gold coins.
Well, you don't want to do that. Trust me. But think of it like this, right? And because you were talking about, the US dollar versus crypto. Do you really think that when the feds approved $824 billion, that it was just like massive fucking railroad cars just filled with money miles long that went to Goldman Sachs? No, they pressed a couple of buttons. It went over the internet, and boom, you have $824 billion.
I get your aspect with the electronic aspect of it, but I mean, let's be real here. Crypto is a volatile market that is continually being outed as scammed over and over again.
I'm trying to tell you that this is no different, or very little difference. This is also a scam, a digital scam. Our economy is built on bullshit.
I mean, Just keep watching video.
Approved. Average Joe, my wife has cancer. Can we get Medicare?
Oh,
Nope.
We're
Jesus.
broke. Now, I
Nope,
do
not
have
for
to tell you
you.
that those in favor of the Fed's actions will tell you that this is an unfair characterization, that it's not the super rich getting bailed out. They'll point out that this isn't a traditional bailout at all because it only applies.
Did you just say it's not a traditional bailout? But it's still a bailout. It's just not the bailout that you're used to seeing. Yeah. And that makes it okay.
To the depositors, and that executives and shareholders will get nothing. And that sounds good, except for the fact that some executives and shareholders in Silicon Valley Bank had already cashed out, with Greg Becker, the CEO, selling $3.6 million worth of his shares right before their collapse.
Come on, man.
And
You
this gets even worse.
Mike, come on, bro. That's jail time to me, bro. I hate that shit. Insider trade. Like, come on, man. You got to be fucking kidding me.
You know what?
Like that guy should get some jail time because he knew.
The thing is, what if him selling those shares started the bank run? Because remember, FTX just happened in November. And then you see somebody selling a large amount of their shares at the top of the company. You're like, before, I'm not going to be the one without a chair when the music stops.
Yeah.
That guy just sold 3.6 million. Let me go get my money out of there. Let me go put it under my mattress because some shit's going down. And I'm not going to be the one to be like, damn, I was thinking about taking my money out yesterday. And that was today. And I can't get my money out. Nope. And that's how you get the bank run. Because other people are looking at it too like, oh, shit, I see this trend. Nope, not falling for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, that's definitely a plausible scenario that could easily happen because when you have essentially one of the leaders of your company essentially not believe in it, it's not really crazy to say that wouldn't happen.
Yep.
When you consider that Greg Becker was one of the people who lobbied to deregulate his own bank. According to Heather Landy, of course, quote, the ability of these banks to fly under the radar in the U.S. was no accident. Greg Becker, SVB's CEO, lobbied U.S. officials several years ago to raise the asset threshold at which banks would be considered systemically important. So let's get this.
Now, remember, people, the American people, you watching this at home, you are not systemically important.
Straight. They faced less regulatory scrutiny because they weren't systemically important, according to them. But when everything goes wrong, they're systemically risky and must be bailed out. It's a classic case of wanting it both ways. Now, again, this isn't the same as the full bailouts we saw in 2008. And regardless of whether you land on whether there should have been or should not have been a bailout, the idea that systemically risky banks should get special treatment and regular banks, I guess, don't, sends a pretty clear signal. If you're rich, you should move your money into banks that are too big to fail. Otherwise, you run a systemic risk of ending up on Jim Cramer, feeling like this.
Yep. It's like that, yo.
I gotta say this though. Shout out to CoffeeZilla, man. That dude is killing it. My man went on Joe Rogan. He's doing a nice little press run, man. He's getting the recognition he deserves. He's one of the best independent reporters, I should say, on the platform. And the way in which he produces his content is phenomenal.
Do you like how he went? You like how he went on Joe Rogan with the suspenders?
Yeah, dude, I saw, man. I saw in character. I watched the whole thing, and I'm like, I watch Rogan stuff periodically, but when I
just can't deal with the commercials, man. I think that's the thing that keeps me from watching. I used to watch the Joe Rogan Experience religiously on YouTube, and I have YouTube Premium, and I haven't seen an ad in so long on YouTube. And then you pay for the top level on Spotify, and there's a fucking commercial like every fucking 10 minutes. Fuck that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I really do like what it was a really good episode. Some of the stuff was kind of interesting that Joe tried to bring him into, and he wasn't really kind of like, that's not really my lane. But Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good for him. He makes great content, and he's finally getting his recognition deserved. And the funniest part about all this, the Paul brothers, I think it was Logan Paul. His biggest dream was to be on Rogan because he felt like that would certify, like, kind of like vindicate who he is. And CoffeeZilla gets on before him, and that's just kind of funny in a way. But let's talk about it, man. Like, we'll kind of have a little bit of a discussion with this.
Well, check this out. Check this out, right? So I found this, Cap. I found this.
Ooh.
I think you're going to find this to be very interesting, right? Visual Capitalist is a very, very... I encourage a lot of you to go check out this website. They have infographics that provide such awesome context, okay? U.S. bank failures from 2001 to 2023. Since 2001, there have been 563 bank failures. Here how Silicon Valley Bank stacks up.
Jesus,
so Silicon Valley Bank had assets in excess of $175 billion when they went down. Washington Mutual. Do you remember Washington Mutual?
I do remember.
They had 188 billion. Washington Mutual was sold to JP Morgan Chase for a measly $1.9 billion. Okay.
Signature Bank.
IndyMac specialized in Alt-A mortgages, loans made to people with good credit score, but no proven income or assets. And then you remember what happened with the housing crisis. So,
right.
That really fucked them up pretty bad. A lot of these banks went down in that financial crisis, 2008 to in that period of time here. I mean, that's ugly right here. That's just ugly.
Yeah.
This looks like a bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Like,
God damn.
Yeah, that looks awful. Awful, awful, awful. So top 20 bank failures since 2001. Washington Mutual Bank had deposits of
taking the
$188
throne
billion and assets of $307 billion. They were number one. Silicon Valley is now the second largest, followed by Signature Bank not long after them. Colonial Bank, I forgot about them. IndyMac Bank, Guarantee Bank, Downey Savings and Loans Association, Bank United, M Trust Bank, and Chorus Bank. Look at all of these: 2008, 2009, 2009, 2009.
Yeah.
Just wow. The banks collapsing in more recent days have been holding U.S. Treasuries as collateral. These have declined in value as interest rates have spiked. So understand that when we're talking about all of this inflation, you can make the case, and you would not be too far off base, in my unprofessional opinion, that these profiteering corporations helped kill this bank. Because when you look at all of the corporations that I spoke of earlier that jacked up their prices as soon as economists started warning of inflation, and then they are the ones that actually caused massive inflation. Now, I'm not saying that inflation would not have happened, but it would not have happened to the degree that it was if they would have followed the rules of a true inflationary environment where you're forced to raise prices to keep your business afloat. These people raised their prices to get record profits after quarters, halves, and year over years of their previous record profits. We're talking about stupid healthy companies profiteering. If those companies did not profiteer the way that they did, Silicon Valley Bank probably doesn't go under, because the value of the U.S. treasuries that they held would not have dropped due to the Feds jacking up the rates of interest just to try to stamp down this inflationary period that was manufactured to begin with.
I mean, I think when it kind of comes down to it for me, because like Silvergate, they dealt with a lot of crypto firms, so I'm not necessarily surprised with them having issues. But, I mean, listen, I think enough is enough with these banks. If you're gonna make these risky investments, or if you are gonna do things that are out of pocket and not properly secure yourself, where you have someone looking over your finances, looking over your short-term investments, long-term investments. I mean, ultimately, that's on them, and the American taxpayer shouldn't have to foot the bill, in my personal opinion. And I would rather foot the bill of getting rid of my, well, I got rid of mine, but getting people rid of their student debt, if that is the case,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
that's where I'm at with it, and I'm not like, I'm very conservative. I think we should have a smaller government. I think government is overreaching in a lot of its boundaries, in my opinion. But if we are going to bail out these billions and billions of dollars to banks that keep fucking up, I mean, come on. I'd rather just have that money spent wisely elsewhere. We have, like, how much should we send to Ukraine? We sent in the billions, right? With Ukraine,
Yeah, the
in
double-digit
the billion,
billions.
it's
Almost
double
triple
digit
digits.
billions to Ukraine and Israel. To me, it's like, let's give off a slice of pie to the American people and just call it a day. Because
And this
hey,
is where, when people start talking about that Trumpism, it's really hard for me to argue with the whole America first thing. It's hard to argue against it because, again, you look around and who is getting government taxpayer funds that we pay? The people that are already mega wealthy that have the lawyers to avoid paying their fair share of taxes in the first place. So when you look at the and remember, a lot of people say, "Oh, I want smaller government. I want the good old days." Do you know what the good old days featured, Cap? Corporations and the richest people, they paid 90% of their income in taxes. And then over the years, after the taxes of the ultra wealthy that were paying 90% made it to where we had good safety nets for our country, and it allowed the government to offer incentives for people to start families and buy homes and join the military. There were incentives for all of those things off the backs of the most wealthy. And guess what? Those people never missed a meal. Those people never missed a vacation. They still had the most luxury lifestyles of anybody in the country.
I mean,
but we still had paved roads and buildings and electrical systems and indoor plumbing that was created off of that. Now we have a crumbling infrastructure. We have a low tax rate on the wealthiest of people. And what kind of environment do we have? Well, we have millennials that are struggling. We have zennials that are struggling.
I mean, I think when it kind of comes down to it, no, I don't think it should go back to that level of
Dan Jensen said around 110 billion to
Jesus
Ukraine
Christ.
at this point.
God. That's a whole different conversation. But
Fuck
I think
off.
when it kind of comes down to it, I don't think we should go back to percentage. What I think that should be done, this is very simple in my opinion. First off, they need to enforce monopolies, just in my opinion, because
enforce or break them up.
Break them up. Enforce their laws they have regarding monopolies is what I should say. Because
this is absolutely wrong, Zippy. Low gas prices. Remember that the taxes on fuel remain constant when gas prices go down. So remember when oil future contracts went into the negatives when everybody stopped driving when the lockdowns first happened, Paul? You remember that?
Yeah, because I work.
You still had to pay a lot in gas because the gas taxes were still there.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, you should have been paid to go to the pump because the oil futures contracts were in the negatives at that point. But you still had to pay the gas taxes. The gas taxes are static. More people will drive if the gas prices are lower. Most people would drive. They would take in more in taxes, and the road should be theoretically better.
He said lull. He said he would know. He was just more just.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about? It didn't make no sense. Okay.
No,
I was about to get on that head, son. Okay.
No, but like what I'm saying is they can force a law, and I think when it kind of comes to taxes, I think you can actually lessen taxes, but also just have a flat rate and get rid of all these loopholes that these people want to do, and just make people pay their fucking fair share. Call it a fucking day. I think the problem is what I'm talking about is like rationality and just common sense, right? Like it's nothing crazy. Make it so that corporations pay their 30% or whatever you want to make it for a percentage. And you would be fine. The problem is that you run into is a lot of corporations will find loopholes and other ways to maneuver their money where they're not paying their fair share, and that's where you get into a lot of these problematic issues. As for There was something that was kind of said before that you said.
This is so you when you said what you said, it reminded me of Zippy's comments earlier in the stream. Why does the government seem to profit from complicated law? Right? When you have you have all of these loopholes built into the tax code, specifically because super rich people and corporations lobby for it because they have the money, the power, and to influence legislation. So if the government was really about everybody paying their fair share, there'd be no fucking loopholes.
Well, that's why there shouldn't be money in politics, though. Like Citizens United.
Well, that's why I said we haven't had a good president at least since 1892 because money really entered politics in 1892 when money started to enter politics on a national level.
The only one who broke up the big monopolies back in the day?
It was the same president. It was the same president. It wasn't was it Roosevelt? It might have been Theodore Roosevelt.
It might have been.
No, FDR came later. So here's the crazy thing. When William McKinley was assassinated,
it was Theodore Roosevelt. Okay.
He was the Theodore Roosevelt was the vice president. So back in the day, you didn't have a vice president that ran with the president, and then the winners run both of those positions. The two guys would run for president. The loser would become vice president. So Roosevelt lost the race then, and William McKinley won because J.P. Morgan and some other massively rich tycoons paid for his presidential campaign. And he was supposed to be like this Bible thumper guy that said, hey, I want to push these religious values on the nation. And so I won't fuck with your monopolies if you support my campaign. So when he was assassinated, he was shot and then died, I think, of an infection from being shot.
Right.
Because we didn't have the modern medical technology then as we have today.
Correct.
Then they realized, well, we can't just buy the president. Because what did Roosevelt do? He broke up the monopolies. It was like, listen, we can't just rely on buying the president. We need to buy the legislators to put laws in the books that would protect us no matter who the president is.
I mean, I think that's kind of where it's actually
Theodore
funny.
Roosevelt was the trust buster. Yep, and they murdered William McKinley right after he got reelected in 1900.
It was very interesting though at that time because the vice president position was looked at as a joke, right? Like nobody wanted to be the vice president, and then when he was put into power, due to that assassination, it was like, he's like, you know what? Fuck all y'all. I'm busting up all this shit, and I'm gonna make you pay. But
because when he was running for president, on that ticket. He was running on the platform of busting him up because not only did they fuck up the American economy with these monopolies, but it made it very difficult for workers to get rights. Because if the whole industry is owned by one company, or you have a regional monopoly where the industry is owned by 2 or 3 companies, but they all divvy up the country in their own slices, kind of like how the internet and the cable providers have been doing for a long time with regional monopolies and duopolies, then it makes it very difficult for prices to come down. It makes it very difficult for workers to get rights because these are the only people that you can get your employment from.
True. I know you got to get a workout
No,
session.
I mean, we're good. Yeah, we're good.
But I'll be honest with you, I got to start taking my meds. So
yeah, well, you're a fucking drug addict. So I wanted to show you guys something because, obviously we've got so much things going on in the world, right? And, you got these banks failing and, and I keep telling you guys, and I'm going to keep beating you over the head with this, right? You, the American people, you guys are like the batteries in the Matrix. Right? You guys are like the batteries in the Matrix. Okay. I don't know if you guys ever saw the Matrix, but when Neo takes the red pill and then he breaks out of this shell, you'll see that there are a bunch of human beings that are like in these incubators, and the machine city is run off of these, off the life force of these, human beings who are jacked into the matrix. Well, we kind of got a situation brewing here because we had a problem here in the United States where companies were starting to pay very large fines for violating, hold on to your fucking pants here, they were violating child labor laws. They were violating child labor laws, folks. Check this out, okay? Lawmakers, in response to these companies putting children at risk, said, you know what? We're not going to hold these companies accountable anymore. We're going to make it easier for them to exploit your children for labor. And why was that? Because these companies said, well, the American adult is lazy, so we need to hire their children. Do you know what it really means? What it really means is the adults realized that we were exploiting them, and they're not going to be willing to be exploited because we don't want to pay a living wage. We want the profits, right? We want to jack up our prices for no reason and cause inflation. But we also want to make it that, well, if these entities don't want to have their labor exploited anymore, then guess what? We want to continue to not pay a living wage. We'll hire your fucking children instead. We'll break all the laws, and when we're found out, we'll just get them to make new laws. Lawmakers target child labor laws to ease worker shortage. There is no worker shortage. There is a shortage of employers paying living wages. They want to profit, but they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay for the privilege of generating profit. If these companies could make us all slaves, they would, as evidenced by what you're seeing here. Legislators in multiple states are invoking a widespread labor shortage because, oh my God, there's so many less Americans in the country to work. No, they're here. You don't want to pay them. To push bills that would weaken long-standing child labor laws. Why it matters. Some bills go beyond expanding eligibility or working hours for run-of-the-mill teen jobs. They make it easier for kids to fill physically demanding roles at potentially hazardous work sites. Protections could be stripped for youths most at risk for being exploited by employers. A new Arkansas law signed by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders last week makes it easier for teens as young as 14 to work without obtaining a permit. But there's more to that. She also signed into this law a provision that makes it so that companies do not have to verify the age of the children. Who do you think that puts at risk?
The kids.
But whose kids? Illegal immigrants, because we were told they took our germs. They took our germs. Remember that in South Park?
Yeah.
Remember that? They took our jobs. And, why? Because they knew that these jobs that people don't want to pay for, they're just looking for cheaper labor. They know that the people who are intelligent, who are capable of doing these jobs, they know they exist. Do you know how they know they exist? Because they're trying to hire children to do those jobs. Where the fuck do you think the children came from? Fucking test tubes? All right, legislators say the bills are largely in response to current hot jobs markets with employers posting an elevated number of openings but struggling to fill positions. Why do you think they're struggling to fill these positions? Because there are no people or because they don't want to pay? One Republican state senator in Ohio said allowing longer hours for teen workers will help understaffed businesses and build leaders of the future. I'm going to translate that for you people. They want the next person that is going to be told to jump and ask how high. Because the American, and that includes Republicans that hate wokeism, guess what? The American worker is woke to the situation. They're not going to be exploited anymore and not compensated fairly, especially when they see these companies are trying to lower pay and take away benefits as they're enjoying the highest profits that they've ever seen in their company's history. And we saw that time and time again during the pandemic. Iowa lawmakers are considering Republican legislation that would allow 14 and 15-year-olds to work in industrial laundry services with really harsh chemicals and freezers at meat packing plants. It also prevents many of them from receiving workers' compensation if they are sickened, injured, or killed on the job.
Whoa. How is that fucking legal?
Because Republicans don't give a fuck about you. Now, Kat, don't they say that they are pro-life?
Hey.
Right? They say they're pro-life, right?
Listen.
But then when your kid dies because of fucking, they're cleaning a saw that drops on their head. There's no sorry. We need to bring the next kid in.
Read the next line. Democrats and Republicans.
Right? In Ohio.
And then a snippet before that said, even in liberal states,
Iowa,
they're considering it.
Look. Iowa. This is Iowa.
Oh, yeah. But okay. Scroll up. All right. When you said Democrats as well in New Jersey.
I'm scrolling down, right? In Ohio. Yeah. So in Ohio, Democrats and Republicans, which is still Republican controlled, are considering removing a cap on the number of hours children as young as 14 can work during the school year, as long as a parent or legal guardian approves, because, the parents are struggling to make ends meet. This is the same thing in poor developing countries where they start selling their children so that they can buy food for the next month. This is supposed to be the richest country in the world. In Minnesota, a GOP bill that missed a key deadline would have allowed 16 and 17-year-olds to work in construction. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, Democrat, last year signed a bipartisan legislation that allows people 16 and up to work 50 hours a week during the summer break if they get permission. So they're supposed to have their whole summer vacation destroyed to go build fucking record profits for some rich asshole sitting on a beach with a Mai Tai outside his Lamborghini. What? What the fuck is that? It should come as no surprise that deprived of able-bodied adults, there's just nobody wants to work for nothing. I want to pay slave wages, and they're not happy getting paid slave wages. 40% of Americans who are homeless are full-time employees. Yeah. Can't you just be happy living on the street or sleeping in your car? Why would you ever want more than that?
The ugly truth is the reason why the van life living has become so popular isn't because it's a glamorous lifestyle. At least this is my opinion. It's because it's become more necessary than ever. I mean, small house living, living in a van, living in a car, making vlogs. And I know some people have thousands or if not millions of subscribers around that. But I don't know, man. It's just not a lifestyle to glorify. And to be very frank here, if we are looking at 14 to 15 to 16-year-olds who work 50 hours a week in high-risk jobs, I mean, personally, I worked in a shipyard, man. I wouldn't want a fucking kid around that shit. I mean, I literally saw when I was working in it.
Look what happened to you. And look how they treated you. A grown-ass man. Look what happened to you, Cap.
I agree. When I was working on the tugs and that happened, but I'll be very frank here. When I was working in a shipyard, now mind you, this company did millions of dollars to repair the roof of the hangar because it used to be an old World War II hangar that built a lot of stuff. Guy dropped down, like he fell from the fucking roof, down all the way down, like he just died instantly. And seeing that shit, at the job site. I don't want some 14, 15-year-old seeing that shit. And I'm not saying that always happens, but like people want to underestimate the danger of meat packing factories that have freezers, because if you get locked in, you can die. People want to like the laundry services, right, with harsh chemicals. If you ingest it or chemical contact with your skin or eyes, that possibly could be fatal. I mean, my job work, like where shipyard work's very light construction, a lot of aspects where you're going up at very high heights, sometimes unsecure platforms, scaffolding that's not properly secured. I mean, you could die. And I think that, to me, it's like we shouldn't be going backwards in time where we're making kids do the dangerous shit. Like, you know what, little Timmy, I know you're 13 and you just got your first post-nut clarity. Why don't you go down in the fucking coal mines and fucking go shovel some coal and give Mommy and Pappy $5? Yeah.
Little Timmy, make sure to breathe deep while you're down there.
Yeah.
Mikey, can we give some love to Mikey Cap? Because what I'm about to show y'all is gonna make you fucking sick. Mikey says most of these kids probably don't even know they should be paid overtime if they work more than 40 hours a week. These companies are always finding ways to maximize profits. Hey, Mikey, would you like to take a look at the highlighted portion? Hancock said younger workers risk falling behind in school and may be more likely to accept lower wages because they don't know the value of their labor.
Yep. That's a problem.
And a lot of these laws are being sold to you by the same party that says we're pro-life. Oh, yeah. Now we know why you want all the kids born. Jeez. So you could do this to them.
Right.
Marcy Goldstein-Gelb, co-executive director of the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health, said the provision in the Iowa bill that shields businesses from some liabilities essentially acknowledges the legislation would create dangerous working environments. Oh, because you have kids that just got their first hair on the nutsack that hasn't had testes descend into them yet. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And when you teach them, they're not going to be consistent in executing the job because they're fucking children.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not comfortable with this on so many different levels because I don't know, man. Like a place like McDonald's or like a fast food joint, fine enough, right? Like if you want to get some kids some life experience, that's up to them. But to essentially waive medical coverage and to waive all the laws regarding work hours, it's foolish because at a 14-year-old, I know some of it was summer, right? But whatever, let's say it's during the year as well. So are we putting a kid's education second place now to meet your certain quota for
why
labor?
would you ever want to educate the kids? Because then they're going to end up just like the adults, withholding their labor because they're not being fairly compensated. Why would you ever want them to know what the world really is? I mean, you can't profit off of them that easily.
I mean, when it kind of comes down to it, I think
I'm really pissed off.
That's a really dumb notion we're starting to spread. I know me personally, I would never send my fucking kid to any of these type of jobs. That's ridiculous. If I knew my kid was going into a work environment, I don't give a fuck if he was 30, 40 years old, that if they get hurt, they don't get no workers' comp or no cut. Fuck you. You ain't working there. You're smoking something pretty strong. That's crazy.
Mikey is on point yet again. You're on point yet again. Unfortunately, most people don't care about things until it affects them or someone they know. Imagine little Timmy or Captain Paul Jr. comes home without an arm because it got sliced the fuck off.
Well, then I'm slicing someone's fucking head off.
Exactly. Exactly. During the last World Cup, there were many reports and videos made on the unsafe working conditions. They said at the very least, 6,500 workers died. At the least, that's the low end.
But people still supported that shit.
I didn't watch a single second of it.
I didn't either. But I'm just saying, you still had fucking football or soccer fans like going, oh, let's go, my team, my nation is winning, while people are fucking dying. So like,
there are people buried under the stadium.
Yeah,
in mass graves.
Like maybe it made better fertilizer. I don't know. And that's pretty much what I would get the fucking circumstance from it. And that's why I didn't watch the World Cup. I had really massive problems, and there's a whole political issues there. But I mean, dude,
look at what Goldstein Gelb also says here, Cap. This one is so blatantly saying we know that what we're doing is going to harm young people, so we may as well just call a spade and exempt businesses from their responsibility that we created. So the federal government promised to crack down on illegal child labor last month after observing a 69% increase in companies employing underage workers since 2018. So you know how they cracked down on it? They removed the illegality so that there's no laws broken. See? Problem solved.
Jesus Christ. Was fined. Oh, so one of the nation's largest food sanitation companies, Packing Sanitation Services, was fined $1.5 million for illegally employing more than 100 minors to carry out hazardous jobs at its facilities. Bro, what in the actual fuck?
And remember, in Sarah Huckabee Sanders' state, they didn't remove the requirement for actually verifying their identity and their age. That clause that they put in there wasn't for no reason.
I mean, listen, we could keep going up and down all this stuff. This is disgusting. This is just absolute. I don't give a fuck if you're right, left, purple, whatever the fuck. Like, this is disgusting. We're kind of getting to stages where we used to be in this country with child labor, and like we don't have to keep going down that article. I think the point's proven. It's just,
and you know what's funny? Like, you know what's funny, Cap?
Sad.
Conservatives said, "Well, we told y'all when you were talking about the manual transmissions." We told y'all that they were going to keep doing these things and that they would show up in girls' locker rooms and perv on them. We told y'all. And then in some cases, they were right. Well, guess what? The leftists have been telling you guys that the American dream is a scam today because the corporations are profiteering on levels that is not sustainable for the country and the people that live in it. We've been saying this for a long time. When I was co-hosting Black Power Magic Hour on @TV's platform, we would say over and over again, look at what these companies are doing to their employees. You had this guy that leads a health conglomerate in California. He gave himself a $14 million a year raise. Do you know what they gave the nurses for nurse appreciation? They set up a box on a table with rocks in it and told the fucking nurses, hey, you can take them home. You can have a pet rock. But this faggot goes from $16 million.
You can't say that.
From $16 million to $30 million. And then when asked, why did your wages go from $16 million to $30 million? They said, well, we don't have to report what our metrics are. We don't have to tell you why my salary went from 16 million to 30 million. But then, we're the socialists, right? But this guy gets to just get free money that he even admits he doesn't have to prove he earned it. And what do they do for the actual nurses that actually deal with the clients, that deal with the patients? Here, take a rock home. You can have a rock as a pet. The fuck?
I mean, to be fair, a pet
Mikey
rock
knows the commercials. Mikey knew the commercial. Mikey knew the commercial during the pandemic. Oh my God. Mikey, you were on point today.
I mean, listen, let's be very frank here. Having a pet rock is pretty fire. I mean, maybe that should be justification enough, but no, I don't know, man. We're getting to a very sad point in society if this is now becoming deemed as acceptable again. I mean, let kids be kids. That's my biggest thing. Like, when you become an adult and you have all these fucking stress and all this shit you have to go through, right? You don't need to be doing that when you're fucking 14, 15 years old. Like, you should be worrying about, like, I don't know, your fucking favorite team or playing fucking sports or doing drama or fucking music, like following your creative passions, not working in a fucking sanitation plant. Like, well, I don't know, man.
So
This is
basically,
sad.
you know what's messed up? Because we did a show yesterday, and you know what we were talking about, right?
Mm.
Dan Jensen, you're the real MVP.
Yeah.
You're the real MVP.
Yeah, we're gonna set up a PO box.
We're gonna send the rock. You know, and tell me if the irony is not lost on you guys. Okay.
Mm.
We talked about yesterday, and we agreed that children of a certain age should not be exposed to learning about different parts of sexuality.
Correct.
Right? And this is something that Republicans have been saying for the last, I don't know, 5 to 15 years. Right?
Mm.
So it's okay for them not to know that gay people exist. But you don't want them to have that information, but you want them to know how to work in a meat packing plant with corrosive fucking chemicals.
Yeah, I mean, I think that checks out. It's stupid. We can.
And anybody notice the irony on that? The same people that was like, protect our kids and our babies are the same ones saying, if they lose a limb, they'll be all right.
I mean,
they're
like,
young. They'll learn to live without an arm or a leg.
You could flip the scenario though and just say it the other side. The problem is both these parties. At least, I mean, like to be honest though, I kind of appreciate the gangster of some Republicans just outrightly saying like, "Yo, we don't give a fuck about your kids. We're just gonna, profit off of them as we can." It's just, and that's why I don't believe in following one party solely. Both of them have massive problems, and like, this issue. I mean, this is a big Republican issue where they shouldn't be supporting or co-signing this bullshit. Let's address the actual issues why there is a worker shortage. I mean, you think it's easy for people not to work? No, that's not the case. It's people want to work most of the time. So I think when it kind of comes down to it, like, yes, there are a percentage of people that are lazy that I do talk about it, but most Americans, when you're at work, I know myself included, right? There's a sense of pride.
Fucking ass.
There's a sense of pride in their work. They bust their ass and they enjoy it. I mean, since I've been hurt, man, it's been fucking complete honest with you. It has been it's taken a mental toll because when you're not working and you're not doing things, you feel like a lack of success in your life, even though it's really like not my fault. My hip's fucking broken. I had to get surgery, right?
Yeah.
But I've also been able to put energy into other projects like TSP, the locker room, and other things that do help.
Oh, you put some energy. You put some energy in, Cap.
Yeah,
you definitely did. Since we've been sitting here, you've gotten over 4,000 views since we've been sitting here.
No shit, really?
You're a savage, guy. You're a savage.
That's crazy.
You're an absolute savage on YouTube, man. Like, you're on a different level. We almost got 400 likes in that video. You're a savage of a different kind, like, really.
I mean, that's pretty dope. I made that video because I knew SNEAKO personally, so that's the interesting part. But yeah. I mean, I'm glad things are going well. I'm not gonna lie, man. I got to get something to eat because I just had the meds. But I think we covered a lot on this show.
Yeah,
we covered a lot of different topics. We'll probably come back either tomorrow.
Yeah, nothing is gonna rile me up more than these two things, Cap. Two things. The exploitation of the American worker and the entitlement of the woman that would seek to extract resources while offering nothing of value from the American worker. Those two things, I will go into rage mode, like fucking what was Agretsico. Right? Like, I don't know if you guys ever seen it. It's a really great contemporary animation on Netflix, right?
That's with the animals and shit, right?
Yeah. Right? Like, nothing will make me go into rage mode more than those two things. Right? Because you guys can call me a socialist or whatever, the American worker is why we have the quality of life that we have. They allow me to work a non-essential job as a personal trainer. It allows it people like you, Cap, make life for people like me possible.
That's
you
a
make
fact.
life for academics and white-collar workers who all think that they're better than the blue-collar worker. You guys make it possible for the white-collar worker and the ancillary worker like myself. You guys make it possible for us to do what we do.
I mean, I'll be very clear. Without the job that I do, there would be no power on the Eastern Seaboard. So, like, that's just the truth. That's the cold, hard truth there. If there was not tugs and barges delivering gasoline to power these power plants,
And no
or
rubs
diesel,
and tugs either.
yeah, exactly. So, but, I mean, yeah, man, it was a
I think
good
more
show.
people would probably be doing rubs and tugs if you know.
Fucking relax.
They would be doing more rubs and tugs without your tugboat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
So,
I mean, literally, what kind of economy would we have? You'd have a whole lot more women wearing scarlet in the red light district if we didn't have all the creature comforts that makes some people think that they can do things independently. The fuck?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think when it kind of comes down to it, though, we had a good show, talked about
Yep.
a lot of different things. And shoot, we got a few more topics we can rattle off for the next one.
Yeah, we might go live tomorrow. We will be maybe later today. We're probably going to record the next. We're going to call it episode 1 of the Low T show.
Low T show, yeah.
Right? If I can get you to not take a nap.
No promises.
God damn it! Come on, man. We need some. First of all, we need. The first episode is probably going to be dedicated to Dan Jensen. He has sponsored most of the pay. The streams since we've been monetized. He has sponsored most of them. He is the highest ranking patron at the shitter level, which is our $5 per month level. We have also the dog water level, which we're going to have exclusive content for that at $10 a month. And if you just want to support the platform, you can go to our Patreon. You can subscribe to the noob level at $2 a month, right? Because, $2 a month is the equivalent of how many meals for starving Captain Paul's? Like 1/7 of a meal, something like that, right?
Yeah,
So we need to feed Captain Paul's hip. So if you want to just support the platform at $2 a month, there's going to be exclusive stuff at the shitter level. There's going to be more exclusive stuff and more interaction at the dog water level at $10 a month. So thank you all for watching. As always, if there are things that you want us to cover, hit us. Talking Shit Podcast LLC. That's TALKINSHITPOD. CASTLLC@gmail.com, right? If you want us to cover some shit, follow us on these worthless social medias, the Twitches, the Twitters, and the Narcigrams at talkin_sh_t. If you are watching on some platform that's not YouTube, that probably sucks. You get on over to YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification bell for all notifications, youtube.com/@TALKINSHIT. And remember, help us in the algorithm because we just can't rely on Captain Paul making viral videos. Okay? We need you, the viewer that love this platform. Please hit the like button, share this stream because it's important for the average American to know that SNEAKO needs help and that they're having their labor pilfered from them from the mega rich. And make sure that subscription button is hit. Thank you so much for coming to the stream, everybody. I'm going to go do my day job, which is punish other podcasters in the gym. And Captain Paul, he's going to do his job by popping a couple of Percocets and making some more vibrant videos.
I do not take the Percocets. Relax.
You guys are going to do your job by seeing us on the next broadcast. Talk to you later.